God has been always faithful in our life. In this world, we cannot think who can come and help us during the time of need other than my God. God is such a God, wonderful God. He never let us down. He never forsake us. There is a pastor, his name is Lucas Sager. He writes many famous songs. When he talks about his life, he says, we were living as poor because my father was a drunkard. He always, drink and fell down somewhere. He doesn't give any money to the family. So we could not live in a city because it's a shameful life that we cannot live among. Another thing, we cannot afford the house rent. So we had to move towards a village where one of his relative, they gave him a shelter like the hut house. It's not a good house, it's a kind of hut, but he gave the family to live there. They do not have food, they just long for food for the whole week, and his father goes somewhere and works. Once in a week, he brings rice to the family, and on the way he drinks, and then he spoil the rice, and while he brings back the rice, it could not be in a good condition that they can cook and eat. So this was the situation in his life. And when he was talking about, and later my father died, and in a poverty my mother also died, and we were hopeless. Nobody cared in this world. So relatives were there, but they could not take care of us. We eat whatever we get it, like the leaves or whatever we get, we eat. We survived, but nobody in this world could care us. When somebody looked at me as a poor boy, even the relatives, they told, "Why can't you go and beg? If you go and beg in the train, people will give you money and you can get food and you can eat." So the world will look at you this way, but my God looks at you differently. Whatever you are going through, and whatever your circumstances in your life, it is not the same way how the world looks at you. God will lift you from where you fall down. So that's the God we worship. And the world can, recommend many things that will break you apart. But God will mold you, and He will, hold you, and He will lift you in the place where you fall down. So that's why the poor man called the Lord. The Lord heard, and He delivered him from all his troubles. It's not like one or two and the remaining God left. When you seek the face of the Lord, and their faces are radiant, those who seek God, their faces will never be covered with the shame. And eventually he was saying it, somehow I came to know, like that God before I chose to die. So my life went very worse to worse. Eventually I decided to end my life. Instead of living this kind of life, I can finish my life. That would be much better. And somebody told him about the love of God, and he was asking himself, would there be somebody who can help me? Maybe it is God, but if there is a God who could have helped me, but I don't see anybody. But eventually he came to know the love of Jesus, love of God, who holds you, who molds you. The world will walk away from you, but the God who comes closer to you, like a good Samaritan who heals you, who takes care of you, and he lifts you, and he lifts your head in this world. And see the love of God. So many times we hear complaints, especially when in the Christianity, people used to say they give money, and they always saying like God will help you, and God will make you rich, and God will deliver you from all your trouble, and that's how Christians target non-Christians. It's a complaint. So unless you know it is true, unless you taste the love of God, you cannot understand. So in this world, everyone will try to escape when you are in a trouble. When your life is filled with fear, everyone will walk away from you, because your fear or your trouble will also pull them. So that's why they just try to avoid. There is a story in Bible when somebody asked Jesus Christ, how do I make sure I will go to heaven? And then Jesus said, love your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and with all your mind. Whatever you can do, just love God, because He is holy. He is such a pure person who cares you, who loves you. And also love your neighbor as you love yourself. So then somebody asked, who is your neighbor? And then Jesus said, there was a man who was traveling from Jericho to another place, and he was attacked, he was robbed, and they put him to death, except, so the life was hanging on him. Now, Jesus asked, who is your neighbor? There was a church priest. He supposed to pray for people to God, so God will heal them. God will show mercy towards the people when the temple priest goes and pray. So this is the custom in every religion. The temple priest, on behalf of the people, on behalf of everyone, he goes to God and prays. Now the temple priest is crossing, and he is seeing him. The person was hanging for his life, and he moves away. The world will try to move away from you when you are in danger. When you are in threatening, they will just move away, even though it is their responsibility to come and step in to help you. As a temple priest, he needs to pray on behalf of the people, but he is moving away. The same way, another person from Levi, he belongs to the same tribe of Israel. It's a close relative in a sense, even though they are not a born brother and sister. He is very close to him, and he is also looking at him. He is also moving away. So, in the world, when we are going through a painful moments in our life, when we are experiencing something difficult in our life, those who are, close relatives, those who are close in nature, they try to move away from us, because they don't want to get our trouble into their life. There was a Samaritan who has no connection to this person. Even they treated Samaritans as enemies. But this man, looking at this wounded person, he realized his life will be lost if he doesn't care. He came down, he hold him, he put a band-aid. First, he put an oil and everything, so he can do the first aid to save the life of that person. And then he takes him to the hospital or the place where they can take care of him, they can heal him, and they can bring him back to life. So that is the God we worship. That's what Jesus asked. Who is your neighbor, and who is the good person you think? The one who healed, the one who helped. He was not a temple priest, he was not a close relative, he was no one, but he showed the mercy. There is no connection to him. He was busy on his way to do his job, but he came down to heal this person. Whatever can happen, he just stopped all his work and he healed him. That's the God we serve. That is Jesus Christ. He came down to the world to show. That's what Jesus told at this time. They asked, how can I go to the eternal life? Love your neighbor as this person. So Jesus came down to show the world this is the path. And when we are experiencing difficulty in our life, everyone around us will move away. But as a good Samaritan, he comes down to our life to put a bandage, to heal us, to lift us. It's not, he just leave and move. Not only he takes care, and he will make sure we are safe and secure in our life. God will fulfill what he has said in our life. I sought the Lord. He answered me. He delivered me from all my fears. When Abraham, there was a person in the Bible and he was childless, and God told, I will make your generations as the sand of the sea and the stars of the sky. When he was shameful at the age of even closer to 100, God told, whatever you experience as shame, I will lift your head. So that is the difference between the people in the world, the relatives in the world, and those who are supposed to do the responsibility. They can all move away from our life, but God will lift you in the place where you fall down. There was a person called David, and he tells, my God has lifted me in the same place, not somewhere a different, or not in a different location, or somewhere those who do not know. In the same place where I fall down, my God lifted my head. Before all my enemies, before all the people who thought I would fall down, my God lifted my head before all of them. The poor man called, the God heard him. He delivered him from all his troubles. That is the God we worship. So every time when we feel we are broken, we are ashamed in our life somewhere, due to some circumstances, remember one thing: God is a good Samaritan in our life. He is not someone who can go away from us. He is not someone who tries to escape from us. He is someone who comes closer to us. Do not ask anything, just put a bandage, put a oil, so that we feel the comfortness, so we will not feel the pain, and take us in his hand. He will make sure our life will be safe and secure, and he will make sure we'll get a life not only in this world. When we trust Jesus Christ, he will give the eternal life. So that is what Jesus showed the world. How do I go to heaven? Love your God with all your heart and all your soul. Love your neighbor as yourself. So when we trust Jesus, whatever we experience in our life, wherever we fall down in our life, God doesn't care. As a good Samaritan, he will heal us. He will lift us in the same place where we are broken. where we are felt ashamed. So then you feel God is a precious God, God is a great God.